Hello there, Celtic supporters. Tonight we need to have a proper look at what's been going on with the team because, frankly, it's been a season that's testing the patience of even the most loyal fans. Now, people have been talking about the attacking play, and there's been some flashes, but what's been glaring is the defensive frailties, the gaps, and the mistakes that seem to keep happening against teams like Livingston and Motherwell. Tonight, if I'm being honest, I feel like it's reached a point where it's hard to put faith in the management anymore. I'm genuinely concerned about the decisions that could be made in January, the players who might be brought in or let go, because this current situation leaves so much room for doubt. Watching that performance, it was difficult to find anything positive to hold on to, even for the most optimistic among us. I've tried to stay positive. I've tried to see the good in the team, like after that win against Aberdeen, when it looked like the lads were genuinely trying to play for the manager, pushing for that late winner. Even the third goal that night showed a bit of cohesion going forward. But Motherwell, well, they exposed every flaw tonight, and it was hard to watch. You could see that the players, for whatever reason, just aren't buying into Wilfried Nancy's system. It's a worrying sign when the squad seems disconnected from the manager's ideas, when the motivation isn't there, and when professionalism looks like it's missing on the pitch. Looking back, the early matches of this season already gave us hints. The first half against Roma, for instance, felt like the players weren't entirely committed, and that continued through those 4 tough defeats. Even though there were moments of hope, like a resurgence here and there, it seems like that spark is now completely extinguished. Tonight's performance was as bad as anything we've seen this season. From the first whistle, Motherwell pressed us, moved the ball better, looked hungrier, fitter, and far more organised. Celtic, on the other hand, looked sluggish, hesitant, and, dare I say, completely overwhelmed. There were moments when it felt like we were just spectators on our own pitch, unable to impose ourselves or even respond with any consistency. The way Motherwell's players moved, closed down spaces, and executed their game plan was exemplary, and it highlighted the lack of preparation from our side. The lads just didn't react to the threats, they didn't adjust, and it made it painfully obvious that the connection between players and manager isn't there. The problem isn't only Nancy, of course. You have to consider the squad we've got, the mental state of the players, and the structure, or lack thereof, that we've been seeing week in, week out. The defense is porous. The midfield often looks incapable of controlling the game, and the attacking options are limited by indecision and poor execution. Callum McGregor, Paulo Bernardo, Damida, Hitati. Tonight was a collection of performances that were underwhelming at best. You could see the discomfort on the pitch, players hesitant to make the right decisions, to press, to tackle, to show any sort of fight. Luke Macau, for instance, completely pulled out of a challenge in the second half, and that kind of passivity is what costs us in games like this. The professionalism just isn't there, and when the team isn't playing for the manager, the results follow suit. It's not just a case of losing games, it's the manner in which they're being lost that hurts. 17 defeats in the calendar year, 2 in 2024. That's unacceptable by any measure for a club like Celtic. It's clear that the board, the structure, the management, and the players are all playing a part in this ongoing struggle. The team looks disorganised, lacks confidence, and seems unable to raise itself for crucial fixtures. And if this is the standard for home and away games alike, then it's hard to see how we'll get back to competing effectively for titles. There's also the issue of how poorly the team is adapting to opponents' strategies. Take tonight, for instance. Motherwell adjusted instantly, exploited every weakness, and Celtic seemed almost oblivious to it. The pressing, the movement off the ball, the awareness of threats, nothing was up to scratch. Even the supposedly key players, the ones expected to make a difference, were either misfiring or too timid to influence the game. When you see Bernardo struggling to get a ball into the box, or McGregor restricted to sideways passes, it becomes painfully obvious that the system isn't functioning. The execution is sloppy, the composure is missing, and the mental fortitude required to compete at the top level simply isn't there. You hope for little sparks, some sign that the team is trying to turn it around, but tonight, as with several other matches, there was nothing, no cohesion, no drive, no spark to believe that a turnaround is on the horizon, and it's made even more concerning by the fact that players may be leaving or joining in January, and whether the replacements will be any better remains a huge question mark. What's frightening is the contrast between Celtic and well-drilled sides like Motherwell. They work with what they've got, they execute their game plan, they compensate for missing players, they're disciplined, sharp, and motivated. They don't moan about budgets, excuses, or resources. That kind of professionalism is what Celtic seems to lack under Nancy at the moment. Even when we get moments of hope, like a free kick or a corner, the delivery is often pitiful, the chance wasted, and the player's body language reflects defeatism more than determination. You can see it in almost every part of the pitch, the hesitancy, the lack of belief, the inability to adjust mid-game, and the worrying part is that this isn't just a blip, it's a trend that has been developing over the past few months, and it seems to be getting worse rather than better. The players' engagement, the trust in management, and the overall organization are all in question. Celtic looked like a team in freefall, and tonight's result was just a stark reminder of how far we've drifted from the standards expected at this club. It's hard to pinpoint a single cause because the problem is multifaceted. Tactics, mentality, preparation, and execution all play a part, and right now, none of them seem aligned. The first half tonight was particularly eye-opening. Motherwell came out pressing aggressively, and Celtic seemed stunned, like they weren't ready for the intensity. Each pass, each touch, each movement seemed tentative, hesitant, as if the lads were second-guessing themselves. Opportunities that should have been capitalized on were wasted, and the defensive gaps were ruthlessly exploited. You could see it from the off. Players weren't confident in their roles, communication was lacking, and the connection with the manager's instructions seemed absent. Even when chances did arise, like set pieces or balls into the box, the execution was poor, the decisions slow, and the team looked mentally drained rather than galvanized. It's not just losing, it's losing with no fight, no pride, no sense of identity. And that, to me, is the most worrying aspect of all. The team isn't just underperforming, they're underperforming in a way that shows a lack of belief, a lack of structure, and a lack of cohesion that even the most basic footballing instincts would dictate. As the game wore on, it became increasingly clear that Celtic were adrift, lacking any kind of structure or cohesion. You could see it in the way the players moved, or rather, failed to move. There was no pressing, no urgency, no anticipation of the opposition's play. Motherwell, by contrast, were crisp, sharp, and organized. Every ball they moved, every run they made was purposeful, and it made Celtic's hesitancy even more glaring. It's one thing to lose a game. It's quite another to look so completely overwhelmed, so unprepared, and so disconnected from each other on the pitch. From the first minute, you could see that the team wasn't buying into Wilfried Nancy's tactics. The lines were flat, the spacing poor, the transitions sluggish, There was no rhythm, no spark, no link between defense and attack. Even players who have historically carried the team, who've shown leadership in the past, looked frustrated and unsure of themselves. And when the squad itself is questioning the manager, when belief is gone, it's incredibly difficult to recover, regardless of what January might bring or what changes the board decide to make. Watching the game, it was apparent that the mental fragility of the squad is just as concerning as the tactical failings. The team looks like it's carrying a weight on their shoulders, not the weight of expectation or challenge, but the weight of doubt. Every touch, every decision seemed hesitant, tentative, as if the players weren't sure they could influence the game or make the right choice. Bernardo looked uncomfortable, McGregor lacked his usual composure, and Demida's first touches were repeatedly poor, killing any momentum that might have built. Itati, unfortunately, continued a season-long struggle, delivering performance after performance that failed to inspire confidence. And it isn't just him. Across the pitch, the mistakes pile up, from misplaced passes to lost challenges to defensive positioning errors. Even when opportunities arise, the team seems incapable of converting them into anything meaningful. Set pieces are ineffective, crosses go astray, and the decision-making under pressure is lacking. It all adds up to a performance that's not just disappointing, but alarming in its consistency of failure. The broader issue, of course, isn't solely the manager or the players individually. It's the system, the preparation, and the environment at the club. You can see that some of the underperformance stems from a lack of discipline, a lack of training focus, and a lack of clarity in roles. Players are unsure of what's expected of them in different phases of play, and that uncertainty translates directly into poor decision-making during matches. And Motherwell, even missing key players, played as a cohesive unit. They had clarity, confidence, and belief, and it showed in every facet of their performance. They pressed effectively, rotated intelligently, defended with precision, and attacked with purpose. Celtic, on the other hand, seemed to stumble through the game, reacting rather than acting, chasing the ball rather than dictating the play. It's a fundamental difference that explains not just the scoreline, but the feeling throughout the stadium that the home side was outclassed in every department. Defensively, the gaps were there for all to see. The centre-backs were pulled out of position repeatedly, leaving space for Motherwell's forwards to exploit. The full-backs were often caught high up the pitch, leaving the defensive third exposed. Midfielders failed to track runners or support the back line, and as a result, Motherwell created chance after chance. The communication between players was non-existent at times, and it left the team scrambling, disorganized, and ultimately punished. And when you combine that with poor transitions in attack, lack of creativity, and indecision in front of goal, it's a recipe for disaster. Every player, from the goalkeeper to the strikers, seemed to be playing in isolation, without understanding or trust in their teammates, and the disconnect is almost impossible to overcome without a clear system and strong leadership. Looking at the performance, it's also obvious that the players' belief in Nancy himself is eroding. It's not just a tactical issue, it's a psychological one. When the manager isn't commanding respect or authority on the pitch, it trickles down to the players. You can see it in the lack of urgency, the hesitancy in challenges, the reluctance to take risks, and the general flatness of the team's movement. The link between manager and players seems broken, and until that trust is rebuilt, performances like tonight are likely to continue. The danger now is that a cycle of poor results breeds further doubt, and further doubt leads to even more disjointed performances. The January transfer window could either be an opportunity to fix the problems or exacerbate them further, depending on the players brought in and how they integrate into this uncertain environment. But one thing is certain, without belief and cohesion, the quality of incoming players alone won't be enough to turn things around. It's hard to overstate the disappointment of watching Celtic on nights like this. The fans come expecting effort, commitment, and identity, and instead we see a team that seems disinterested, disorganized, and disconnected. The effort in challenges is minimal. Players are pulling out of tackles, misplacing passes, and contributing little to the collective performance. It's not just losing that frustrates, it's losing in a way that shows no fight, no organization, and no plan. The mental state of the team is as concerning as the tactical failings, because a side that doesn't believe in itself or its manager will struggle to compete at any level. And that's what makes nights like this so worrying. It's not a blip, it's a pattern, and unless something drastic changes, it's difficult to see how this trajectory can be reversed. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. In a move that's sending shockwaves through the Scottish Premiership, whispers are growing louder that MATHIAS KVISTGAARDEN, the young Danish forward who's been turning heads in continental Europe, has reportedly put pen to paper with Celtic. While neither club has confirmed the details, the rumour mill is in overdrive, and fans are already imagining the potential impact of such a signing. KVISTGAARDEN, barely out of his teenage years, has been hailed as one of Denmark's brightest attacking prospects. His pace, sharp movement, and eye for goal have drawn attention from several European clubs, but the thought of him heading to Glasgow, of all places, is catching many by surprise. Celtic have long been linked with big names and emerging talent alike, but securing someone of a KVISTGAARDEN's caliber, especially at this stage in his career, would mark a bold statement from the club's management. Siders suggest that Celtic see in KVISTGAARDEN not just a goal scorer, but a player who can thrive in the high-tempo, press-heavy style that has come to define their approach under recent managers. Rumours hint that the deal could represent a significant investment, signalling that the club is serious about strengthening their squad for both domestic competition and European ambitions. It's the kind of signing that could rattle the rest of the league, forcing rivals to reconsider their own transfer strategies. Fans are already taking to social media, speculating how KVISTGAARDEN might fit into the current squad. Would he slot in alongside existing forwards, or is this a move to inject fresh dynamism and creativity into the attack? Analysts are quick to point out that integrating such a young player comes with risks, but the potential upside is enormous. Celtic supporters in particular are known for their passionate backing, and if the rumours hold water, KVISTGAARDEN could be welcomed with a fervour reserved for players who instantly capture the imagination. Of course, in the world of football, nothing is ever set in stone until contracts are officially announced. Yet, the mere suggestion that Celtic have pulled off this coup is enough to get the gossip columns buzzing and the speculation flying. Will KVISTGAARDEN become the next great name to shine in Scotland, or is this merely another story in a season already brimming with unexpected twists? Only time will tell, but for now the chatter is electric and the Celtic faithful have a reason to dream. Hello fan, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, Share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.